from here or okay, from there?
It's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, all. We are starting the Teaknet side event on new opportunities for Teak sector in post-COVID-19 scenario. May I invite Ms. Shom Satkuru, Executive Director of ITTO, Japan, for her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Distinguished participants, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to warmly welcome you on the occasion of the Teaknet side event, New Opportunities for the Teak Sector in the Post-COVID-19 Scenario. Thank you actually for giving me the opportunity to present the opening remarks to this wonderful event. Firstly, I would like to extend ITTO's appreciation to IUFRO and Teaknet for their partnership in promoting sustainable management of teak forests in the tropics. Teak is one of the most valuable hardwood species, as we all know, in the global timber markets for its natural beauty, strength, and stability. Natural resistance and wide array of applications ranging from quality furniture, interior joinery, cultural uses, and also exterior applications due to its incredible strength. Given the importance of teak, I'm pleased to say that in 2017, IUFRO, ITTO, and Teaknet jointly published a global teak book addressing best practices of the conservation of teak genetic resources and the sustainable management of teak forests in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. My appreciation is also due today to all the side event speakers who will discuss the opportunities for the teak sector in a post-COVID-19 world and lessons learned from the implementation of national teak programs and activities. I'm also so delighted to see speakers from the ITTO Mekong Teak Project teams. In the case of the ITTO project, I very much appreciate the hard work of the Royal Forest Department, RFD, and Kasetsart University of Thailand for their valuable contributions. I also include the Cambodia Forestry Administration, Lao PDR, National Agriculture and Forestry, and the Vietnamese Academy of Forest Sciences for their hard work for the teak partnership. Ladies and gents, the COVID-19 has had serious impact on the forest sector, and this includes the teak sector. Teak forests and hardwood products can contribute to a post-COVID-19 world through improvements in securing livelihoods and contributing towards increased sustained economic growth in the long term. ITTO has always recognized the importance of enhancing the continuous supply of legal and sustainable timber and non-timber products and services from forests to improve their contribution to socio-economic development through best practices of sustainable forest management, while ensuring socio-environmental safeguards for supporting forest-dependent communities and the conservation of biodiversity. However, achieving sustainable supply chains requires enabling policies, supporting institutional arrangements, sufficient and sustainable financial resources, as well as the provision of positive incentives that promote and support them. Both enhanced and sustainable production and consumption need to be accompanied by efforts to strengthen enabling policies, institutions, and capacities for sustainable forest management, together with increased investment and cooperation of public and private sectors, as well as enhanced research and development. In moving from commitments to practical implementation on the ground, I think that the side event today is a wonderful opportunity to increase the understanding of the importance of sustainable teak forest management, as well as opportunities for mainstreaming teak into the sustainable timber trade. Furthermore, I further believe that this side event today will stimulate review of the challenges facing legal and sustainable supply chains in the framework of sustainable supply and consumption, and I hope that it will propose recommended actions at local, national, and international levels for the development and effective implementation of legal and sustainable supply chains of teak in support of SFM in the tropics. bringing together policymakers, researchers, and academicians, practitioners, civil society, and the private sector engaged in promoting sustainable teak programs, I am certain that the outcomes of this side event will be of great value. ITTO member countries look forward to the opportunity to increase the contributions of natural and planted teak forests and teak products to the achievement of the Paris Agreement and the SDGs through the enhancement of sustainable supply chains in natural and planted teak in all 3 tropical regions. On a personal level, I think the most important key message that we have to disseminate widely between all of us is this: harvesting sustainably and legally produced timber products from sustainably managed forests is not deforestation. I think that is a key message that we all have to jointly promote so that the general and the wider public, including the multilateral organizations, understand that what ITTO is doing is very much in line, in fact, very much focused on meeting all the targets of the Article 6 under the Paris Agreement, the SDGs, the Global Forest Goals, and the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. With that, I take this opportunity to wish you all a highly successful event, and I thank you all again for being with us today. Thank you.
That was Shyam Sadhguru, Executive Director, ITTO. Thank you for the nice words and setting the stage for the side event. Now, may I invite Dr. Michael Klein, Deputy Executive Director, UFRO, for his felicitation address. Dr. Michael will be joining us virtually.
Yes, thank you very much, Sandeep. Distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's very nice to meet you today. Good morning to Korea, and to all watching from around the world, good afternoon or good evening. It's very nice for me, and it's a pleasure to be part of this opening session of the Teaknet side event at the 15th World Forestry Congress in Korea. I can only join virtually, but I think new technology makes it possible to be very much inclusive and have a good audience to this important event. On behalf of UFRO, I would like to mention that, of course, you're all aware that Teaknet and research on teak as one of the most established and valuable tropical timber species has its firm place since many, many decades within the UFRO network. The network of global science cooperation, which is more than 250 specialized research and working parties from around the world in all sorts of topics, from biophysical research to economic research to social research and policy. To this end, the Teakwood Working Party is in Division 5 on forest products and is very active through the Teak Information Network since its establishment. And as Shyam has already mentioned, there has been recently a study on global research synthesis on teak. It was a UFO publication as the results of a networking project, the Global Teak Study. And this helped also as one part to develop an ongoing ITTO teak project for sustainable management of teak resources in the Mekong region. The study was coordinated and financed at this beginning through the UFO Special Program for Development of Capacities, and this provides evidence on the importance of science networking at its outreach to practitioners and practical implementation of projects as this one in the greater Mekong region. Over the years, SPDC and UFRO have repeatedly supported the participation of forest scientists in scientific events and conferences organized by Teaknet. In many instances also, like the World Teak Conferences, many years ago in Bangkok, Thailand, or in Guayaquil in Ecuador, and also now we continue support to the forthcoming World Teak Conference in Accra in Ghana in September 2022. Now, and this event today at the World Congress on teak, new opportunities for the teak sector in the post-COVID scenario, we think is a very, very important topic, because this framework condition, the economic framework and the social framework condition have dramatically changed because of COVID-19 over the last 2 years. So it's a matter of redefining the role of teak as an established tropical timber in the market, but how it actually can further help to build back better or to recover from these devastating events during the pandemic. But also we need to consider plantation development in teak should be in line with biodiversity conservation and enhancement of biodiversity, because teak outside its natural range is a plantation development, but how it actually can contribute to biodiversity conservation within the landscape as part of landscape restoration. But further creating market opportunities and jobs in more regionalized economies as an alternative or an addition to the globalized market, with all its problems as revealed during the current pandemic. So I look very much forward to the deliberations and the discussion in this session today. And I wishing all of us a fruitful sharing of information, and as we call it, a fantastic side event. Thank you very much. Back to you, Sandy. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Michael, for delivering the felicitation address. Nicely summed up the Teaknet activities and has given up a good introduction on how the post-COVID scenario is going to unfold in the teak sector. Thank you. Now I will have my presentation. I will invite. Yeah, so we are seeking new opportunities for teak sector in the post-COVID-19 scenario. Teak, as you know, is one of the most valuable tropical timber species, and it has a wide array of production systems and a long history of management, both in natural forest and plantations. It is this that makes these species as a bandwagon of globalization in forestry over the last 2 centuries. But what we know about teak, if we look at the publications and literature, we should say that there are major gaps in the knowledge about teak. And 2 studies that provide a global overview, which was one carried out in 2000 by Pandey and Brown, and the latest, which we can say in 2017 by FAO and Teaknet. This gives broad trends and broad outlines of the resources and statistics and all the research activities that has gone into teak over the past several years. This is one of the most traded forest products, and from its natural habitat that spans some South Asian and Southeast Asian regions, it has expanded globally, and at present it is cultivated in nearly 70 countries across the globe. So if we look at the annual harvest from natural forest, we have from Myanmar, Thailand, India, and Lavopedia. Most of these countries have shifted from a production forestry approach to a conservation forestry approach, and there is a ban on felling of teak from the natural forest. Hence, increasingly, we are dependent on the teak that is produced from the plantations. And at present, 80% of the plantations are found in Asia, 10% in Africa, and 6% in tropical America. And if we look at the ITTO reports, we are having something like 2 to 2.5 million meter cube of teak wood per annum. The area has expanded exponentially. Some of the regions like Ecuador 45 times than that was present in 1995. When we look at the figures in 2010, Ghana 21.8. So it has been expanding across Africa, Caribbean, Central America, Oceania, and South America. That is, it has outgrown its natural teak growing areas in Asia. Now, it's a very challenging time, not only for Teak, almost all businesses were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So there has been great disruptions and mill closures, scaling down of production, then retrenchment, plunging demands for products, cancellation of orders, etc., have become widespread. And there was severe resource constraints, and even governments were finding it difficult to meet the resource demands. So being a long rotation crop, Teak, we will have to take from two different perspectives. One, what is going to happen in the long term, and what will be in the what will be the short term effects. So both these are very much intricately related, and we have to look at the Teak sector from both these aspects. In the long term, generally, if we look, teak is usually grown as a long rotation crop, except for the newly coming up plantations where we grow for 20-25 years. But still, it is, when we consider other species, it is still a long period, 20 to 25 years. And so the major drivers that is going to affect after the COVID scenario passes out, it will be the demographic changes, the population growth, then what will be the change in income, that is we are going per capita income that we are going to have in our hand, and the growing concerns about environment, especially climate change. All these factors are going to be discussed, and they are going to affect the teak in the long term. So if we look at the population and income growth, the population is growing, as we all know, and so is the income. Though the per capita GDP rate of increase is less, but surely it is increasing. So people are going to have more money at their hands. So the demand for one of the exquisite premier timber is always there, and so we assure that there is not going to be a letdown on the teak sector. If we look at the economic turbulence over the past 2 centuries, teak has overcome all these turbulences, and it has shown a steady market increase and a steady demand, and the prices were also steadily increasing over the past decade. So it is having a very healthy growth. But there are some environmental issues that we are more and more conscious, especially in the past decade. A lot of conventions are going on, and people are talking about carbon sinks. And here also teak offers one of the most promising prospects, because as we know, teak is grown for longer periods, and it is mainly used for furnitures, fixtures, construction activities, wherein the wood will be kept for longer periods. And so this is one of the species which can be ideally considered as a carbon sink for storing atmospheric carbon for longer terms. So in the long-term outlook, we need not worry about the teak in the long term. But what happens in the short term? A highly disruptive short and medium term, especially for the small and medium scale industries and planters, they are going to be affected by the COVID-19 recession. And it will be there even after the recession goes, after it passes on, and there will be some effects for the next 4 to 5 years that we are expecting in the teak sector. So the recession is impacting all sectors in the short term, and surely the World Bank's economic outlook estimates a 5.2% contraction of the world GDP, and this is going to have an impact on the teak demand for wood, including teak, which is a derived demand, and already the impact is being felt all along the supply and value chains. So there was a housing or a real estate business was down during the past 3 to 4 years, and the trade was also down. So as I have pointed out, the short-term recession is always there. The teak sector is the short-term effect is on. And but one of the scenarios, recovery scenarios that we are advising is like players in the teak sector are in a better position when compared to many other sectors, because if you look at the growing stock, you can keep it for next 4 to 5 years, and then you are assured to get a good market price rather than going and selling it at present. So that is one of the factors that you have to consider when you want to sell the present teak plantations. But some mortality is unavoidable. So especially the processing and the supply chains will be affected, but they will have to be supported either through government policies or subsidies. The market linked incentives can be provided to them so that they can also tide over the short term setbacks by the COVID-19 pandemics. Some of the emerging opportunities for teak is one we can consider it increasingly in the forest and landscape restoration. This is the UN decade for eco-restoration. So why not teak? We are globally we are going to have something like 1.5 billion hectares would be available for mosaic restoration, in which at least some of the areas could be used for teak. Along with other land uses like agroforestry, smallholder agriculture, and settlements. It would give a good boost to the teak cultivation across the globe. And as I have earlier pointed out, as a climate mitigation option, achieving the bond challenge alone will require something like 47 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent, generating something like $5 billion in annual net benefits. So it can be taken teak as a bridge to the green recovery and the future. One of the key sectors that we will have to concentrate will be a smallholder teak plantation. That is mainly in the developing countries in Asia and Africa. There, where we will have to provide some technical inputs and also assure them that in the long run the sector is going to pick up, so that it is promoted in that particular sector. Marketing in agroforestry system is still a concern because the farmers get something like 3 to 5 times lesser price than that is actually in the market. They sell it at a very low price to the retailers, then wherein they take the middlemen, they take it to the market and sell it at a very higher price. So there has to be some mechanism, government interventions, policy decisions, so that the price that is present in the market is really made available to the farmers. So this will boost the sector, agroforestry sector, smallholder teak plantations in a large way. Then there are the certification issues. Now almost all the developed markets are moving towards a green economy, and they in the near future it is going to come that only legally certified wood will be able to enter their market. So it is the right time that we also think about timber legality and such steps. ITTO is already promoting such activities, so that is a right step into the future, and this is going to come up in a big way, and we have to start thinking and doing activities in this direction. So the way forward is supporting the teak sector to tide over the period of COVID-related turbulence in the short term. Then we have to development of region-specific management strategies and climate-resilient hybrids. That is when teak is coming up in a big way in new areas, that has to come up along with that. Then promotion of legal and sustainable trade of teak wood, assistance for capacity building, and then effective forest policies and legislations towards inclusive and integrated teak-based forest management. So these are some of the points that we can take, that we can adopt to have a way forward for teak sector. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, now may I invite Dr. Ma, Projects Manager, ITTO, to deliver the lecture on the topic, Teak in the Tropics for a Sustainable Future.
Very good morning. I thank you, Teaknet and UPRO for joining this side event to promote teak in the tropic. I believe this is a very important opportunity to move forward teak sector in the future. So my presentation talk about more the general overview in the tropics, tropical region, and who are the major players, particularly supply chain, in terms of the large private sector investment. I like to share with some of the interesting the private sector investment, as well as some smallholder plantation Asia, as well as also I will talk about ITTO teak project in without mask would be better. So in Mekong, we had very intense with the teak partnership. So I like to introduce what we learned from the Mekong the teak partnership. So I like bring your attention first the 2003, that my first experience to expose the teak. I am not teak, but I learned from the teak from the Kerala. So this is the first experience, and it was very interesting. I think over the world, around the world, so teak coming up. Michael Klein mentioned about the International Teak Congress conference, like the Ecuador, Bangkok, Ecuador, this year, the Ghana, but before, I think a lot of effort also teak go back. We learned the teak is 18th century, it came up. We know one of the great person, Dr. Brandis. I think we know the teak sector. After his wonderful contribution, I think teak sector coming up. I think this is one of interesting the teak book and wonderful also teak market in the Kerala. I think this is my experience, and I think at that time also some recommendation I believe still I think similar. We need more such demand for teak wood. I think in a more competitive price. So how do we add value to teak? That was the main key message which I learned from Kerala. And Michael, also our executive director, also Sandy mentioned about the global teak study made by between the UPRO and ITTO. This study very clearly mentioned about some of the issue in the case of natural teak forest. We are facing high risk of the genetic loss, genetic diversity loss. In the case of plantation teak, also the quality of the plant teak is not so strong, and also genetic origin not known. So that's such a thing. So we are trying to enhance the quality of teak management and teak plantation. We learned the teak is really came from like the Mekong region, but it's a globalized species. Latin America, also South Asia and Africa. This is interesting. One of species like globalized. I think this is what I learned. This very, very interesting species. I think the three tropical region equally, I think there are very many countries that are interested in promoting teak. Just your attention, there are very intensive teak plantation taking place in tropic. In the case of Brazil, there are teak resource company. This is really outstanding the company. They had in Brazil, not much familiar with art, but the teak is also well known. Mato Grosso, they had 40,000 hectares out of 100,000 hectares. They have very intensive teak farming, and they're exporting to Indonesia and India. So they are very interesting. In case of the Africa, Ghana, the form Ghana, they had very interesting teak plantation. They had the benefit sharing mechanism. It's interesting from the government, the Forest Commission. They're taking certain percent, and this company 80%, and they're share with also landowner as well as the community. So this benefit sharing mechanism quite well established in Ghana. In the case of Cambodia, this is very innovative teak plantation. What I have seen, I wish to visit there. I was Changdan here, so but we postponed it here. This is innovative. I think they had very interesting irrigation method and the watering, and the teak plantation really growing fast. I could not believe this is another innovative farming in the world. So they had the mean annual increase like more than 35 cubic meter per year per hectare. It's incredible. We've seen the eucalypt like 35, but almost similar to eucalypt. This is incredible, the innovative, the teak plantation in what I have seen of the world. So I believe this is good for us also to share, and we can some kind of the improve or apply as much possible. Here I like to introduce also Sandy mentioned about the smallholder. I think the smallholder plantation also very interesting to come, particularly the West Java. I think that culturally they love the planting teak. So this is very interesting since we have seen teak in West Java. So community, they love plantation and the teak, and then they making the furniture. I think domestic market, we learned such wood yesterday, local species and local consumption, local domestic demand. It will be very interesting. So it is interesting, and some genetic improvement. We learned that 8 years rotation, short rotation, normally take 25 years. But this, even if the community based and the scientific some advance, and 8 years rotation, and mean increasement around, I haven't heard about, around 14 cubic meter per hectare per year. So compared to Cambodia, quite not high, but they still also, I believe this is great, interesting teak plantation. So smallholder, not only West Africa, we had organized when we had the councils in Togo, we also organized some workshop in the Lome in 2019. And also we talk about teak, particularly smallholder teak. And West Africa, mostly like the Togo, Benin, Ghana, and all the country, really Ivory Coast and Cameroon, they are very much familiar with also teak. So it was interesting. So one of the interesting outcome, the message from the smallholder, they mentioned about smallholder also, if they receive the technical support and capital for more investment, teak plantation will play a very important role as a teak bank, like my bank, saving bank, and will be also great for pension funds, maybe 20 years less, also education, and any the emergence also can catch from the teak plantation. So we have seen very interesting the teak plantation, small farmer, not somehow not farmer, but small farmer, they dedicate the plantation in West Africa. That was very interesting for us to see. So my final segment is to try to introduce the Mekong teak. So Mekong is a hub of the teak. I think that nonetheless, mother, like the habitat of the natural teak, natural teak bearing is Mekong. So we try to promote legal and social supply chain. We had very pleasure to work together with Cambodia FA and Vietnam Academy for Science. We will have also presentation from Cambodia and Vietnam, and Laos and Agriculture and Forestry Institute and Myanmar Forest Department, as well as FRI. Also, we will have this presentation from Myanmar and Thailand, the Royal Forest Department, Kun Sapol, I saw, and then all the colleagues, Kastar University, we work together. So this is very interesting, the partnership supported by the German Agriculture Ministry of Food. We are very happy to work with them. So one of the interesting point is how to enhance the quality of the teak plantation. This is supply chain in Thailand. So Thailand, they had proud of this, having the world first, the seed orchard. I think this is very interesting. So good quality of the plantation came from good quality of seed orchard. I think when you promote forest landscape restoration, we are very much focused on target, but also we are not somehow not concentrate in the teaks, some of the source of the good seedling. But Thailand has good establishment from the seed orchard, and then the silviculture, good practice, and then also go to the private sector, and then also interesting to go to like certification. Yeah, this is not we had the PFC, but this one more or less the national or the Royal Forest Department some certification, and then also go to the enterprise, and then they go to the market. I believe also Thai, there are many also some good player, they go to the certification, but this is case somehow the Royal Forest Department CNI case. And couple of years ago, we had some workshop in Vientiane to promote the teak, value-added teak. So some of the recommendation emphasized that we need certification is very important. Somehow to minimize the transaction cost. I think when we talk about legal and social chain, we have seen smallholder, particularly smallholder, they are far behind of the certification promotion. Transfer cost is not good, particularly the Luang Prabang. There is a Teak, Luang Prabang Teak program in there. And they had a very good Teak certification, but somehow later they could not continue because the transfer cost. So very important to have the very innovative certificate with the government support. So government can provide certain initial stage to provide some certified origin ownership, and then I think they can move. And then also we got some point like the community owner taking more the group and the more the marketing power to add some the value to bargaining to the market. And also we learned that particular so good quality of teak, we need those good silviculture practice like thinning and pruning. Without that, we have seen some of the quality grown the teak, but we have seen some of the problem there. So this is very interesting. And also we learned that somehow Sandy also mentioned somehow we need also kind of the partnership from the government and research, particularly this academia. I think this also still we learned that the Teak sector are very important. So my final, the way forward, also Sandy provided some picture for how to forward the short term and long term. My the 3 point, particularly I learned from teak is really teak is one of the king of the timber, maybe princess of timber. I mean, among one of the best teak is the species teak. I think I would say this the yellow gold. The bamboo is green gold. I also promote the bamboo by the old species, but bamboo is green gold, but teak is yellow gold. So I think that this teak will have a great potential to bridge the green recovery and the future. And also, particularly we are facing a lot of disturbance from the COVID-19. So we really look forward short-term and mid-term and long-term gain from the teak. And really ITTO and UPRO and Teaknet, all our partner, we really look forward to sustainable teak development in the traffic for our sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ma. Now, may I invite Dr. Satchi Lang, Staff Officer, Forest Department, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Conservation, Myanmar, to deliver the lecture on the topic Sustainable Management of Natural Forests in Myanmar. So it will be through a virtual mode. We have a recorded presentation of Dr. Satchi Lang. Yeah, please.
Hello. Hello, good morning. This is Sachiline from Myanmar. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to share information on sustainable management of nutritive forests in Myanmar. As we all know, Myanmar is one of the key naturally growing countries. It is one of the most important hardwood valuable species, which is planted extensively in several countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Nutritive forests had been managed by Myanmar governments, especially Forest Department of Myanmar, for many years with sustainable timber production as the primary objective. Possessing a great variation of forest ecoregion, there are 6 major forest types in Myanmar. Among these forest types, the majority of the forest area is covered by mixed deciduous forests and hill and temperate evergreen forests, accounting for 38.20% and 26.92% of forested area respectively. This figure shows major forest sites in Myanmar. According to FRA 2020, in cooperation with Myanmar Forest Department, FRA 2020 has indicated that Myanmar is endorsed with the forest cover area of 42.19% of country land total area, which is one of the highest forest cover country in the Asia Pacific region. In Myanmar, literally distribution occurs in the semi-evergreen forest, mixed deciduous forest, and deciduous tree-cap in pine forest. Among these forests, teak can grow naturally well in mixed deciduous forest, especially in the moist upper mixed deciduous forest (MUMD), in which forests produce teak with straighter and clear bough and associated with Xylella psilocarpa, Pterocarpa macrocarpus, Malina arborea, and other bamboo species such as Bambusa polymorpha, Saplostrichine pagrasii, and Dendrocalmus hamiltoniana. This figure shows the area of mixed deciduous forest shown in the red line color, in which teak can grow very well in this area. Myanmar Forest Department applying the Myanmar selection system shown in MSS to manage the nature forest, including the deep forest management. It has been applied since 1856, so it is already over 150 years old. For management purposes, forests are assembled as the working cycle, such as isolation working cycle, Nanti-Thadu working cycle, and local supply working cycle. The first two working cycles can be overlapped, and MSS is applied in these both working cycles. In MSS involved adoption of the following activities. There are totally 8 activities in MSS. For teak and other hardwood species exploitation, we use these calculations to estimate the annual allowable cat AAC. The harvesting of teak is regulated based on annual growth and controlled by the cat limit prescribed species-wide. Usually, the MSS is not true selection system. It is a stratified uniform or cat limit system. Nowadays, forests are managed by using the MSS, but the forest resources and nutritive forest areas are decreasing. Moreover, the extract of the nutritive forest is shrinking and the quality reducing, and also the yield is dropping. In light of this, the urgent need is obviously to either modify the MSS or to implement a gradual transformation methods to cover the native forest to uniform system. Nowadays, Forest Department of Myanmar integrated this modification into the Modified Myanmar Selection System (MSS). In MSS, these activities are included and also including the research activity. Moreover, there are a few remarkable changes such as the log export ban in 2014 to promote the local processing following logging ban policy in 2016. And also, Forest Department implements the 10-year Myanmar Reforestation and Rehabilitation Program (MRRP), which is launched in 2016. This activity conducted in the native forest area, especially in the Bakoyuma mountain region, which is one of the important area, and we call that it is home of teak in Myanmar. And also the legality program Light Flood Forest Law Enforcement, Governance and Trade, and MTLS, Myanmar Timber Legality Assurance System. Finally, Forest Department not only emphasizes to modify forest management system to harmonize with nature and to achieve the sustainable forest management, but also focus on conservation activity of forest resources, including teak species, that were started in 1984. The major conservation activity includes the establishment of the seed production area, which has current teak clonaceous orchard, and also establishment of the protected area system, in which in situ and ex situ conservation activities are included. And also Forest Department renew and revise the law and policy. This is the information sharing how Myanmar Forest Department manage the natural forests, including the teak forests in Myanmar. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yeah, that was Dr. Satsi Lang, who had joined virtually and made the presentation. Now, may I invite Mr. Chiang Danny, Deputy Director General, Forestry Administration, Cambodia, for his presentation on sustainable investment in teak plantations in Cambodia. That's why
high, and the circumference or the girth is about 12 centimeters.
Okay.
Outstanding. This one is one that Israel kind of they piloting this the Israel company. They piloting this big plantation, but the technology is still kind of in a piloting stage, and it's still a very high cost. The operational cost is very high, especially the maintenance and intensive silvicultural practices. This is the one that we do in Gyeongsang province, which is one of a little island close to the very hilly land area in the Kangmo mountain, but in one section it's the area is a little bit dry, and there to might be 50 kilometers from that. The rainfall or precipitation is very different. So this one that the plan for piloting, and then we expect that if there's no COVID or some restriction, then we can bring all of you along to visit the place to see if that continue to other country. But most of the seedling of these three species of teak was brought from Malaysia. Actually, we buy the what we call the tissue culture from Malaysia, from the company there, and then we take the tissue culture to Cambodia, the young one, and then they raise in a plantation. Please, next slide. A teak is a kind of, let's say, like one of the highest price in terms of for commodity. This one. So this is a kind of a little doing with the local people over there. They do the kind of making of furniture and all of that, but not yet for the export level, but it's still a commercially high value timber species. Please, next slide. Let me see that the problem in teak or tree plantation, I not say only teak, but there's a rosewood, there are also other high value tree species, even the fast growing. The problem is there is what we consider is the investment. Investment is by public and private or smallholder, especially for the long kind of growing species like teak, because a teak, if we use a conventional method, it can take 20 to 25 years. So the upfront operational cost will be kind of high, and that not apply for the smallholder, especially the smallholder. This is not yet viable for the what we call the planting. That's one. Oh. Okay. Yeah, and also they let's say the knowledge, limited of knowledge. I would call the limited of knowledge that in terms of how to improve the genetic resource or a good seed or good seedling for better grow, better density of wood growing as well, because we're not very sure about the technology that the Israel is brought in for expect to harvest the teak in the next 8 years or 9 years.
we don't know is the composite of the density of the wood is still there. Of course, the one other thing is that the people have been discussing this morning related to teak for the market. It's still a kind of, people is still confused. All they saying is consider this is a burden, especially in terms of recognition of the market. What I mean is a certificate. There's too many certificates around, which is some require like forest certification scheme, some require the certificate of origin, which is the teak is a man-made forest mostly in Cambodia, not a natural forest, and the legal acquisition, all the same as a certificate of origin. And of course, there's a new thing that say like the green supply chain certificate that we might be pursue on this. So this is will be burden to the private smallholder or investor for invest in tree planting. I not mean that only teak, but other tree that produce a wood product to sell in the market. And if we put all of this, it's a kind of extra cost or extra expenditure, operational expenditure for the smallholder. So we need to discuss further refine this kind of modality to avoid the burden of the smallholder. Next, please. Besides of challenging in Cambodia, there's most of the incentive that we provide is the government provide 50% of export tariff reduction. This is one. For example, the government also put free of charge for private tree planting or private forest plantation registration. Is free of charge as well. And also another one is the government now is allow people to register with what the tree, what they plant, and allow them to sell without kind of transportation permit and many other permit. Only the tax that we now is also considered to reduce in a kind of way that can be a more competitive for the market. Because if we still keep the export tax in a very high, then people are not going to plant teak anymore. So next slide, please. The way forward, this is what we're saying. One is, what we look at that is to promote and develop a tree planting investment via the ICT infrastructure and platform. This is a new way of the thing that can provide the some additional kind of investment and also incentivize those by allowing some of fintech, financial technology firm or new startup, and also the green investment or invest in nature. This is a kind of a slogan that we like to promote, and also to provide the platform for inclusive investment, and also the secure the investment, because when we ask for people beside of planting the tree, what that you mean is to make the business, like planting the tree is like money falling from the sky. So let's make a tree planting. Of course, we need to conduct for the research and technique for the improvement of genetic, that the way forward, and also the policy, because teak is one of the high value commodity. If that will be restricted to the market and all of that. So we need to enabling the policy, not only local or country based, but in a regulated kind of international market. Like I say, how that we can pursue for landscape restoration, what we can call for tree planting or teak planting, to, let's say, like if people invest in this, they already invest in nature. Why we put more burden to the people there? And also to secure if that's a profitable business like that. So this is what we're saying, that the way forward that we should consider, instead of extreme in one side. I would call that only the corporate social responsibility, that they do, okay, we plant 1 tree, that's it. But we want to make a thing that if we want the tree, especially the teak for smallholder, because we want in one thing that we say, let do the work that support the poverty alleviation. But when we put all of this, for example, if we put a lot of burden to the people that they not expect very much from the benefit out of this business, so they're not doing business. And as you may know, the global land mass is about more than 65%. It's still not no forest. This is the forest only 32% of the global land mass. So if you look at this figure, there's a lot of opportunity for planting the tree, no matter any species, and especially teak, because the people will invest if that is profitable. So in that, let's say more than 65% of the land mass, or we can calculate, let's say, another extra 5% of the land mass can cover by the tree planting in a form of agroforestry or backyard farming or backyard planting. That will be a lot. And as you may know, the global, even in the 32% of the global forest cover, they are only, out of that, only 7% of the so-called the private forest or tree planting or man-made forest, only 7%, but they contribute 70% of the product of the wood. So this is what we need to look at that, and in a coherent way, and in whatever that we can. So I would like to say, beside of all of that, I would like to say thank you for all of you to be here with in this kind of special side event, Teak side event, and kind of personally and online. And also we would like to say, because this Teak project, we call Mekong Teak project, is the we have five partner. The country is Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And also we got funding from the ITTO, from the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture of Germany, through the administrative of ITTO, that the project, and we would like to acknowledge this kind of support for promote the teak plantation in Mekong region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chiang Danny. That was a very passionate speech. Sometimes overshooting our schedule. So may I now invite Dr. Tran Lam Dong, Director, Silvicultural Research Institute, Vietnamese Academy of Forest Science, for his lecture on smallholders forest certification in Vietnam.
So good morning, everybody. Sorry, my presentation is about the smallholder forest certification in Vietnam. Actually, because of Vietnam, the major species is acacia. But so in this side event, it's about teak, so it's not so much fit to this. But I think we can share some experience from Vietnam for the smallholder group certification that can be applied for the teak plantation in some other countries. So I talk a little bit about the smallholder forest owner in Vietnam and some difficulties and challenges against the sustainable forest management standard and some current status of smallholder forest certification in Vietnam. A pilot project we have done with PFC and VFCS is a pilot project on the certification for the Vietnam Forest Certificate Scheme and some recommendation. Firstly, about the smallholder forest owner in Vietnam. So, talk about the scale. Is we have about 1.5 million households of the forestry household manage about 2 million hectares of mostly acacia and eucalypt is a commercial plantation, and the average size is about 1 to 2 hectares for households. You can see on the left picture, left side, that you see the smallholder managed plantation scattered in the countryside. And for the management practice is the major species acacia and eucalypt, and the cutting rotation is very short. It's within about 4 or 7 years old, and the MAI is about 20 cubic meter per hectare per year. But it can create a lot of income for the smallholders. It's for example, in the plantation can generate about the $400 US per hectare per year, and it contributes to about 20 million cubic meter of the cutting in a year in Vietnam. So it's a big volume of timbers, and contribute to about the 70% is a wood chip, and also the about 30% is for veneer or sawmill for the furniture. So it contributes to about 14 billion exporting in a year in Vietnam, 14 billion US dollar in 2021. It's a big exporting value of Vietnam. But anyway, they have some difficulties and challenges against the SFM standard. So you can see the common is a common cutting cycle of the acacia plantation in Vietnam. You see a lot of the unsustainable practice, for example, burning and site preparation, and a lot of disease and typhoon effects, and not reduce impact logging is not applied also. So that's why we want to promote SFM in Vietnam. But for smallholder, also they have some weakness. For example, it's very difficult for them because it's a limited capacity in terms of technical, and also a lot of risks of the typhoon, pest and disease, and also the land is degraded after several rotations. So that's why we want to link them together to become empower them to become a group to apply the SFM standard, also the certification, and also want to connect them with the timber industries companies. For example, they need material from the smallholders. So that's why we encourage this solution for the smallholders. So about the group certificate in Vietnam now, sorry, there's an unupdated data is from the last year, but now we have about more than 300,000 hectares of certified plantation in Vietnam, and about more than 70,000 hectares is a certification for the smallholder group. So you can see we mostly with the FSC, because FSC came to Vietnam a long time ago. I think the first certification was in 2010 for the smallholders. And now we have some PFC, VFCS certification from last 2 years. So when we start the Vietnam forest certificate scheme. And you can see now we have about more than 30 certificates of the different kind of the certification. So from this, we can see that we have some common linkage form. So we can see in Vietnam, we call this as a horizontal linkage between the farmers. For example, we have the Forest Owner Association and also the Cooperative Union or Cooperative Alliance, and also cooperative. So this is because due to the standard of the group certification, we need the legal entities to be the certificate holder. So we need to have something like this is a legal entity in Vietnam. So it can be the certificate holder. So under that, they can link with maybe household group or maybe cooperatives, and then to make the group of the farmers, it can be applied for certification. So in terms of we call the vertical linkage. So this we want to link the farmers with the wood industries, wood processing companies. So we have two types of the linkage. One is if the farmer group, they have already certification, so we can sign contract with companies. But if not, so they can be using the company as a representative for the group certificate holder. So these are two types of the vertical linkage. So this is very important because we want to develop a good structure of the group certification. So we define, for example, what is a good linkage form. It should be potential to maintain an expansion of the group, because if it's not strong, so it cannot be expanded to the larger group. So in Vietnam, you can see mostly, sorry, it's an area. It's within just about the 1,000 to 2,000 hectares for one group. It's very small. So we want to expand it to be bigger to reduce the cost for the smallholders. And also it should be a legal status of the group that can be signed contract with other stakeholder, for example. And it should have some available resources, for example, the management structure of cooperatives or something else. And in terms of groups management structure, it should be a strong group organization, and also proactive and independent in internal monitoring, and also qualification. QMS is a quality management system, because in the groups forest certification, they need to improve the quality in the forest management. So it's what kind of a good linkage form. And then we, from our own, from our existing group certification, we classified into 3 types of the linkage now in Vietnam. So the first one is the enterprise can be the representative for this group certification. So the household here, they do not have their own legal entity, but they have to rely on the company as a representative. And the other one is we have another one is a Forest Owner Association. It's also the legal entities. So it can be certified, and then they sign contract with the companies. And the other one is the Cooperative Alliance, or maybe Cooperative Union. So they can have certification, and then they can link with have a contract with enterprise. So in terms of the advantage and disadvantage, so we prefer to be the cooperative or at least a forest owner association. But in Vietnam, forest owners association is also have some difficulties because if we want to form an association, it's very difficult because it's a law for the we call the CSO formation is take a long time. But for cooperative, it's very easy. We have a law. So we prefer the third one, and then we may supply pilot projects on that. So we have 2 pilot projects on the PFC certification. So one is we have the cooperative. Another one is we use the cooperative alliance, and we link with the 2 companies that they support for certification, and then they buy the certified products. So this is our pilot project. Yeah, we develop a lot of guidelines and trainings in different aspects in the sustainable forest management, and a lot of online, also on the field activities, and yes, and auditing and certification, and then finally we have certification. And some recommendation from this. So I think because the farmer itself cannot make their own legal entity, so I think we need support for them to create the maybe cooperative or cooperative alliance union. Sorry, and then the link with forest also timber processing companies. And also we can use existing resources of other organizations. For example, in Vietnam, we have the cooperative alliance, or maybe the farmer union, for example. So we can use that to support for the smallholder to build up their own group certification. And also one I think it's a very important recommendation is that we should use the IT technologies in the supporting the group certification, because you know that in Vietnam, for example, we have 1.5 million households. If we do capacity building for the big number of households, with a lot of time and labor. So we need to use something like, we have the platform in Vietnam, the IT Wood, and we can connect the smallholder together in this platform. And then we can use the capacity building for them by online training or building some tool for them for management of the plantation. And also even the market e-com. So this is for Vietnam, but I think for the regional in the local Mekong region. So I think we can learn from other projects. So here we have the Richard Lighty. So he's from PFC. Yet we have just done the first step of this, that we build up the infrastructure for the forest certification in Vietnam. Sorry, in some Southeast Asian countries. And now in the next step, so we apply for the new Asian projects to improve this, and then we can mobilize other country to come to join this. I think this can be used for the other country in the Southeast Asian country in the forest certification. Yeah, so this is end of my presentation, and I hope to comment and question. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Tran, for the nice presentation. Now, may I invite Dr. Ong Yut, Faculty of Forestry, Kasset University, Thailand, and Regional Activity Manager, ITTO Teak Mekong Project, to have some quick remarks on climate change impacts on teak forests.
Yes, may I share my slide?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yes, good morning. Do you hear my voice?
Yeah, it's audible. Please go on.
Okay. So thank you very much, the chairman. So this morning, I would like to share the research knowledge about the practice of climate change on the natural teak forest. As some speaker mentioned that the climate change will be the long-term effect on natural teak forest and teak plantation. So this one I would like to focus in the Mekong sub-region, where we have the project funded by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and executed by ITTO. So the project's objective is to demonstrate the direct goals and sustainable teak supply chain with engagement of the local community, smallholder, and government actor in the greater Mekong regions. So under this project, we have three expected outputs. One is teak conservation, and second one is to promote the legal supply chain in the value chain, and the last one to engage the local communities in the teak plantation and agroforestry. So in fact, the projects already prepare one publication in the teak in Mekong for a sustainable future. So we are planning to launch this book very soon. So what is teak? So teak is one of the deciduous species. So it's very variable hardwood. As some previous speaker already mentioned, it generates a lot of income for the local people and government in the lower Mekong region. And now teak have been planted over 70 countries in different continents. So you can see the picture. So on the right-hand side, so we assume that this may be the biggest teak of the world that still remain in Thailand. So based on the scientific evidence, we estimate that it's about 1,500 years old found in the Western Thailand. And the figure in the front, this is about 70 to 80 years old. So teak, as I mentioned, is deciduous forest. So it's a light demanding species. So we can grow teak in the, we can find teak mainly in the deciduous forest. But in northern Myanmar, we also have the teak scattered in the dry evergreen forest. But the quality of the teak in the northern Myanmar that found in the evergreen forest have lower quality than the deciduous forest that found in Thailand, India, and Myanmar. So what are the environmental factors for teak? So teak are mainly found in the dry and moist deciduous forest, and generally is found below 1,000 meter above mean sea level. But on the right-hand side, this is the special one. So in the Western Thailand, in Mae Hong Son province, so we found teak, I think about up to 1,300 meter above mean sea level. And teak require the well-drained soils. And teak has the wide range of climate resilience. For example, this can go in the annual rainfall between 1,200 to over 3,000 millimeter. But teak go well in the area that have the distinct climate during the wet season and dry season. Usually it's required 3 to 5 months for the dry periods. And temperature can be vary from 13 to over 40 degrees Celsius, but suitable mean temperature is about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. So the previous speaker already mentioned that the remaining natural teak forest is about 29 million hectares. So mainly in India, in Myanmar, and in northern Thailand, and in northern Laos. But in Indonesia, This one, in fact, is from the plantation during the Dutch colonization in early 1990 the century. But Indonesia, Cambodia, and Vietnam do not have the natural teak forest. But however, substation of the natural teak forest have been disappeared due to the overexploitation, unsuitable management, and the encroachment for agriculture. So as I mentioned earlier, the teak is very sensitive to the climate variation. So if you see this one, the teak, you can see the tearing is clearly show that during the wet season, so the tearing is quite wide, but in the dry season, it's very narrow. And the moisture content is one of the limiting factor. Teaks go well in the early rainy season. And if we have the light intensity lower than 30%, so the teaks go quite poor compared to the open woodland. So recently, IPCC released two report from the IPCC AR6. So on the left-hand side, about the physical scientific basis. So they expect that the temperature will increase, I think most likely about 2 degrees Celsius by 2100. And in last a few months ago, a second report on the climate change, on impact, adaptation, and vulnerability on species and other sector have been released. So the recent research on the climate change, on impact and adaptation is clearly show that many species will shift their distribution from one place to the other, and some species cannot exist due to the rising temperature and the extreme climate. So how about the climate change impact on the teak forest? So there was a previous research conducted by them in 2017. So this one is focused on the suitable ecoregion, not only the teak distribution itself. So you can see the red patch. This is the showing the expected loss of the natural teak forest, while the blue show the remaining, and the green one show the additional suitable habitats under the future climate change, either under RCP 6, RCP 8.5 in 2070. So what will be the climate change impact on the teak forest? So recently we have the new climate change scenario. So we call the SSP from 1.26 to 8.5. So 8.5 is the extreme climate. So the temperature will rise, I think, more than 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, and will be the a lot of change in the rainfall pattern, and will cause impact on the natural teak forest. So in this research, I work with the colleague from Myanmar, Dr. Saji, and Vong Vilai from Laos PDR, where we have the natural teak forest. So we collect the occurrence of the teak from various sources. For example, in Thailand, the Royal Forest Department got the funding support from ITTO to implement the systematic forest inventory. So we have a percentage of the teak occurrence, while in Myanmar and Laos, we got the presence occurrence from the research. So altogether, I think more than 1,500 occurrence but this location was shortened to about 400 in order to avoid spatial auto correlation that will cause the what you call the error from the species modeling. And we also remove the duplicated record of the teak occurrence. And we use the species distribution models. The maximum entropy is very popular and common SDM model used to predict the distribution of the species, either plants or animals. And the outcome of the model show the probability of distribution from 0 to 1. 1 is 100% false, and 0 is totally not found. The spatial resolution is 1 kilometer because we did analysis at the regional levels, and we use the existing forest cover prepared by the USAID Soviet project in 2019 to map the remaining natural teak forest and the loss of the teak forest from the encroachment. And we also analyze the effectiveness of the protected area for teak distribution. So on the right hand side, you can see the table. So these are the considerable factor to the teak distribution. So what are the most important for the factor? So including aridity index, evapotranspiration, elevation, latitude, and tree density. So density can imply the distant forest, while the aridity and evapotranspiration, this one can represent the climatic factor. So you can see that the annual rainfall and annual mean temperature have low contribution to the teak distribution. So these are the results of the modeling from 4 scenarios. SP 1.26, that the temperature will increase about 1.5 degrees Celsius, but the change in climate. And the other one, SP 85, this one is the extreme climate. The temperature may rise 4 degrees Celsius, and the extreme fluctuation of the climate. So it can show that under the SP 1.26 and the SP 370. So it's most likely that the suitable of the teak in Myanmar will shift to the Chan state in the north, similar to this one. So currently this area covered by semi-evergreen forest. So it's predicted the natural forest of the evergreen will most likely change to the deciduous forest. So it will become suitable for the natural teak distribution. But some area either in the western Myanmar and in western Thailand. So this area we expect that we will have the more annual rainfalls. So it will become not suitable for the teak plantation in the future. And how about the contribution of the protected areas? So the percentage of protected area in Thailand now we have about 22%, while in Myanmar about 5%, and in Laos PDR about 15%. So based on our analysis, so we found that the almost 50% of suitable teak distribution already occur in protected area. So it can imply that the protected area will be effective or to guarantee the long-term persistence of the natural teak forest in Thailand, while in Laos and Myanmar, so teak will be vulnerable to the long-term climate change. So it is recommended that maybe the government of Myanmar can consider to expand the protected area to cover the existing teak distribution and predicted location of the teak forest in order to avoid the disappearance of the national teak forest and to conserve the genetic variation of the teak. So in conclusion, so I would like to say that even though teak has a wide range of climate tolerance, but the climate seasonality, either the rainfall in wet and dry season or the variation of the climate during the season will become more important than the annual rainfall and mean temperature. And the total remaining teak forest that estimated by Milley in 2015, in which the ITTO and UFO published the book that Dr. Ma already mentioned. That's one cover about 29 million hectares. But due to the unsuitable teak management and encroachment, so the remaining areas cover about 20 to 25 million hectares. And teak is more likely will shift toward to the north of Myanmar in Shan State due to the it's more likely that that area will have the higher temperature and less rainfall, so it will become suitable for the teak plantation. So for long-term conservation, in situ conservation is also needed to guarantee the long-term persistence. But while the ex situ conservation, particularly the genetic conservation and improve of genetic variation for the climate resilient are also important for the teak plantation and to promote the smallholder plantation to guarantee that they can they could plant the high quality teak seedling, because the teak require at least 20 years before the final cutting. So this one we can guarantee that their investment will be effective. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rongyot. That was an entirely new dimension. Surely we will have to factor in the climate change in a post-COVID scenario if we have to encompass the teak sector in a growing scenario. So now we will take one or two quick questions. We have already overshot our time. So one or two quick questions for the discussion session. Now I invite Mr. Hugh Brown, co-chair and co-chair of the local organizing committee of the World Teak Conference and the director of operations, Forestry Commission Ghana, to update us on the fourth WTC. Ms. Valerie, if you may, the secretary of the local organizing committee is physically with us, so she will be updating us about the forthcoming fourth World Teak Conference in Ghana. And Hugh will be joining us virtually.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We want to start with a presentation by Hugh, then I'll continue with the update on the LOC. So Hugh, if you are online, kindly start the presentation.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly? Good morning to those of you in Korea. It's about 2 a.m. in Ghana, so I'm not sure whether it's morning or dawn. I'm happy to join you and to make a short presentation on some models of teak establishment in Ghana. This morning, I want to share with you the modified Tonja plantations as a rural development initiative to restore landscapes and enhance livelihoods in Ghana. Next slide. Am I allowed to share my screen so that I can?
No, it's okay. You can go ahead. We'll do it from here.
Okay, thank you. So this would be the outline of the presentation. Please move on. I would try to be as snappy as possible. A bit about Ghana. Ghana is in West Africa, tropical country with a land mass of 238,535 square kilometers, or that's about 23.8 million hectares. The estimated forest area as at the end of 2019 is 6.57 million hectares. And 15% of the land area is managed by the Forestry Commission as protected areas, either as forest reserves or wildlife protected areas. The area of forest plantations as at the end of 2021 is estimated at 230,000 hectares, or just under 1% of the land area. Roughly 70 to 80%, 75% of this area is covered with teak. Now, forest plantation development has been identified as a key landscape restoration strategy in Ghana, with additional benefits for sustainable alternative livelihood support. And so in 2012, when we launched our current forest and wildlife policy, we highlighted the need to promote and rehabilitate the restoration of degraded forest landscapes through forest plantation, enrichment planting, and community forestry, and also for government to invest more resources into landscape restoration. We followed this up in 2016 when we launched what we call the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy, which seeks to achieve sustainable supply of forest goods and services to deliver a range of economic and social environmental benefits. It's hinged on three main strategies, one being forest plantation development, two, enrichment planting of degraded forest reserve landscapes, and the third component is incorporating trees in farms or agroforestry. Next. Prior to the launch of the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy in 2016, the country had been running what we call the National Forest Plantation Development Program between 2002 and 2016, with the following objectives: one, to restore forest cover; two, to ensure sustainable supply of industrial timber and wood fuel; three, job creation, especially within the rural areas to reduce poverty; And 4 was to position the country to tap into the carbon market. And 5 was to incorporate food crop production within our plantations. And this is where the modified Tonja system comes into play. Next. As far back as the early 1990s, the Forestry Commission, through the Resource Management Support Center, had been piloting different models for plantation development. And the modified Tonja system came up tops as being one that kind of ticks all the areas of intervention, be it landscape restoration, job creation, and food production within the same landscape. And we realized that it also contributes directly to SDG 1, which is poverty reduction or poverty alleviation, SDG 13, which looks at climate action, and SDG 15, which looks at life on land or forest conservation and restoration. It also helps us, we found that it also helps us to address or fulfill our commitments and global landscape restoration pledges under AFR 100 and the Bond Challenge. And we'll skip this, just a bit of history. Next slide, thank you. So the MTS approach, it starts with first identifying deforested landscapes within the forest reserves, and then finding suitable or willing communities who want to partake in landscape restoration. And usually these communities must be within 3 to 5 kilometers maximum from this degraded area to enable them access the land easily. Once we've identified a degraded area and a willing and capable community, we undertake some form of sensitization and community mobilization and encourage them to also establish tree nurseries. That aspect is not compulsory because some communities may not, but where they do establish the tree nurseries, the Forestry Commission buys the seedlings from them for the undertaking. Then land is allocated and we go through the process of land preparation. The farmers, they plant their food crops, and then we also assist them to plant the tree crops. They manage these, especially during the first 3 years when they have their food crops, they weed around and maintain and protect these areas. Then usually after 3 years, once the canopy starts closing, the farmers move on. But I expected to come around to do the maintenance and also do fire protection and protection from encroachment. Over the past 3 years or so, we've been piloting this process of incorporating shade-loving crops under these trees to ensure that the farmers would stay longer than 3 years and also derive benefits from the plantation throughout the lifespan of the plantation. So we've tried black pepper, grains of paradise. We've done some honey production, etc. But this is still at the pilot stage. We have a benefit sharing arrangement, which ensures that once we undertake commercial thinning or harvesting, the farmer group benefits by taking 40% of the revenue. The Forestry Commission retains 40%. 15% is paid to the landowners, and then 5% is paid to the local government agency for community infrastructure development. Next. So this table kind of highlights what I've just said. It teases out clearly the various stakeholders, their roles and benefits. Next. This is a typical modified Tonja plantation, this should be about a year or a year and a half old. What we have here is Ciduella odorata with plantain and some other food crops in the background. Next. So over the past, since 2002, I think we've established close to 230,000 hectares of plantations, both by public and private. I need to add that in 2002, one of the things that happened, which was new, a game changer, was that government allowed private sector investment within degraded government forest reserves. And in an earlier presentation, I heard the mention of Farm Ghana. Farm Ghana is one of the pioneers who've totally, currently have about 11 to 12,000 hectares planted, mainly of teak. And this has helped to show up the numbers. Out of this area of 230,000 hectares of plantations, close to about 70% to 80% is teak, and 60,000 hectares of this has been established under the modified Tonja system that is using community collaborations. Benefits from this scheme. Can you go back, please? The previous, thank you. Benefits to stakeholders include sustainable livelihood creation for forest range communities. Many of them raise seedlings, not just for the modified Tonja, but also for other government and private sector plantations. Because at the very start, many of these went through training by the Forestry Commission and are now capable of raising seedlings and selling them as a source of livelihood. They provide labor throughout the lifespan of the modified Tonja plantations, and they are assured of a 40% share. And I must say that since 2012, farmer groups have been coming on a regular basis to receive their share. So this is something that is happening, and it is real. They also receive short-term cash income from the food crops, which to them is the most attractive part of the whole deal. Risk is shared by farmers, Forestry Commission, and the communities, especially in terms of wildfire management and illegal harvesting. And we believe that the pilots, if it goes well, where we incorporate shade-loving non-timber forest products, is going to be a game changer, because then farmers will going to appreciate more these plantations and stay on the land more and help us protect these lands. Next slide, please. Yeah, challenges. It has not been without some challenges. One is the slow pace of executing the benefit sharing agreements with the farmers. It requires registering each farmer, farmer details, next of kin, and getting these things all documented and filed and registered at the Lands Commission, etc. We are trying to see how best we can speed this up, but that has been one of the areas where we haven't performed that well. We've also observed, in some cases, lack of capacity of farmers in some areas to carry out the weeding and tending once their food crops have been harvested and the canopy is closed. And we believe that by introducing this shade-loving fruit crops, we may be able to get around this challenge. Some farmer groups have shown lack of capacity to undertake some silvicultural operations like pruning, etc. The commission is trying to train them and build their capacities along that, but we are not there yet. And in some cases, it's been just an issue of poor supervision on the side of the Forestry Commission field staff, sometimes due to inadequate staffing. And so this leads to more suboptimal outcomes where you don't get the best from the plantations being established. Next. So in terms of looking at overall criteria for success, in terms of improving access, we think the modified Tonja, it's an excellent way to provide access to landless and peasant farmers who are previously will be doing working on behalf for other people like sharecropping, etc. Now they have access to fertile land and they're able to grow crops and own it 100%. It helps to lower inequalities in resource and wealth among the groups. Clearly, if you didn't have land and you're doing sharecropping, and now you could actually come together and plant, get your short-term crops, and also have a share in the final timber, it helps to bridge the poverty gap. Yes, then improving education and information. There's been a lot of training and engagement at the community level, and this has helped to build capacities of farmers, and has even led to some of them undertaking plantations on their own off reserve. Landscape restoration, as mentioned earlier, over 60,000 hectares has been restored or is under restoration. And one key component of the modified tonja is the food production. You should visit some of these areas during harvest season, and the large volumes of plantain, cocoyam, legumes, vegetables that come from these areas are amazing. And that has been the mainstay of many of these communities. It's been a knowledge sharing journey. We're learning from the farmers and they're also learning from us. Next. Conclusions. We believe that promotion of forest plantations is likely to provide more options for sustainable livelihoods. And for example, there's this example of one of the modified tonja leaders who used to be an illegal chainsaw operator who was deforesting the forest. But now, because of access to fertile land, is converted and is leading his team to restore these lands and also making money from doing so. And we believe that Ghana stands to gain immensely if deforested portions of forest reserves, especially within the dry forest zone, could be converted into high-yielding forest plantations. Currently, degraded forest reserves are virtually unproductive, and this is the way to make them productive so that society will also benefit from them. And some of the benefits include increased supply of timber, increased income for landowners, the Forestry Commission and investors, including the rural farmers, job creation, increased industrial production, and subsequently foreign exchange for the country, and increased food supply. Next. Next, I think, basically. Next. Next. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you.
Now, may I invite Ms. Valerie Fumanase, the Secretary of Local Organizing Committee and Head of Plantations Department Resource Management Support Center, Forestry Commission of Ghana, to quickly update us on the upcoming 4th World Teak Conference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sandeep. I acknowledge the presence of Dr. Ma and everybody here. Just continuing from where Hugh left off. Ghana has the privilege of hosting the World Teak Conference in September this year. So I just want to give you a teaser so that you all come to Ghana this year and join us for the WTC. We all know about Teaknet. They are organizing this program for us today. They have the mandate to support the conservation and sustainable management of teak resources, international marketability of teak wood products, and its effective utilization. Over the years, Teaknet has been organizing the World Teak Conference to bring stakeholders together to share ideas and also to facilitate the development of new strategies to promote teak. Previous World Teak Conferences have been held in Asia and Latin America. In 2011, it was in Costa Rica, 2013, Thailand, and then 2015, it was in Ecuador. And in all these conferences, there were more than 300 delegates from over 36 countries who attended these conferences to gain knowledge and share knowledge and boost the teak timber trade. WTC is here again, and we are very happy and privileged to tell you that all routes and flights lead to Ghana in West Africa for the World Teak Conference in 2022. We are hoping to see everybody here, those online and those here, everybody in Ghana, plus more. Why Ghana? The Teaknet Steering Committee and its organizations, the FAO, ITTO, and UFRO, selected Ghana to host the next World Teak Conference in 2020, based on the following reasons. Ghana is one of the major teak growing countries in Africa. Like Hugh said, approximately 70% of tree species planted in Ghana is teak. And beyond Asia, Ghana has the highest area of planted teak. And the Forestry Commission of Ghana is a lifetime member of Teaknet. And the rep of the Teaknet for Africa is also with the Forestry Commission. That's you. And we are hoping that this will help us to bring all the other African countries together to be part of this good initiative to ensure that we boost the development and marketing of teak in Ghana. It was supposed to be in 2020, but as we all know, it was postponed because of the COVID. So we have the new date and we all have to save the date, 5th to 8th September 2022. And the theme is the Global Teak Market, Challenges and Opportunities for Emerging Markets and Developing Economies. As we all know, teak, like we've all heard this morning, is one of the major, like Dr. Man says, the yellow gold. So everybody wants to have teak, but how do we make sure that we are getting the best out of the teak plantations that we have? If you come to Ghana this year, you get a lot of information and a lot of networks to help you move on. And the venue is the Hotel Kempinski in coastal city of Accra. Specific areas that will be looked at will be the sustainable management of smallholder teak farming systems for quality supply of teak timber to the market, review and improvement of existing silvicultural systems and practices for better stand management on teak wood quality, analysis of market structures, which is a key one for us in Ghana as well, and the value chain of teak wood trading and their impact on the profitability of teak investment, evaluation of the private and public investment in the teak sector and its impact on socioeconomic conditions and rural livelihoods, and then the strategic bit of it. We will look at all that. These are the major themes as indicated here, but the unique thing this year is we are going to have B2B sessions in Ghana. This is going to be key to establish direct networks and initiate transactions between teak traders and developers to boost the teak trade, because most of the stakeholders are requested for this. And the markets in Ghana, Asia, all over the world, the B2B businesses are going to be in Ghana, so don't miss them. We also have sponsorship packages that we are asking people to support, the Teaknet and us. We have the diamond, the platinum, and the gold. So far, we have 6 sponsors, including the New Star Company, Form Ghana, Aaron Global, a Suwa Company, Ivan Timbers, and Mere Plantations. They have all supported us so far. And the Forestry Commission itself has made major investment to ensure that anybody who comes to Ghana will have a wonderful time. The field tours are also going to be very interesting. We are going to have one to the Shine Hills Resource Reserve, where we are going to have the wildlife, rock climbing, cave exploitation, and all that. And there will be a one-day trip to the Form Ghana plantations. As has been mentioned earlier on, there will be flights to take people there and back by the close of day. And I don't think anybody wants to miss that. And then we have the unique canopy walkway in Cape Coast that a lot of people are afraid to walk on, but if you dare and you go on, you will have a wonderful time. And also the Cape Coast castles, there will be cruises. Anybody who wants to come should please come to Ghana and tell other people to come as well. Registration has been open for a while. Abstracts are actually closed for now. You cannot do any abstract submission, but you can register and participate. And the early bird registration ends on the 30th of June. And the third announcement, 31st July. Registration deadline will be 31st of August. So there's a lot of time. But immediately we might cut off at a point. So the earlier you register, the better. And the conference definitely starts on the 5th of September. Other bits of information, the weather is great in September in Ghana. You don't want to miss it. COVID-19 is actually under control now in Ghana, and extra efforts are being made to ensure that it is certainly under control. And then arrangements are also underway to ensure that acquisition of visa and all travel arrangements are good. And then security and safety measures are also in place. So on behalf of the Teaknet Secretariat, the chairman and members of the Scientific Organizing Committee, the chairman of the LOC and chief executive of the Forestry Commission, Mr. John Alote, and members of the LOC, we invite you all to Ghana in September 2022. Register now, support a worthy cause, and select a sponsorship package. Share the information with other organizations and companies who couldn't make it to Seoul. See you there, and thank you very much. We have the links of the website, and also Dr. Sandeep. If you have any inquiries or questions, you can ask him or myself, and we'll solve that. And as a teaser, we have brought you something special from Ghana. Chocolate from Ghana, so
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Valerie, for the updates, and we invite you all to attend the 4th World Tea Conference in Ghana during September 2022. So we are running short of time. Now, may I invite Dr. Ma for the closing remarks and wrap up.
Thank you very much, Sandy. And, thank you very much, our audience, and thank you very much for joining from the online. I particularly appreciate Michael Kleiner from UPRO. I heard his very early morning, like now the 3 o'clock in the early morning. I very much appreciate your participation, and we had a very extended discussion on the opportunity and challenge of teak. We learned that the teak really interesting species, hardwood species, can be promoted in the further way, and we have seen some opportunity, including the emerging opportunity of teak in the forest landscape restoration and the UN decade and ecosystem restoration. So we also one of the way further enhance the teak plantation for the benefit of all the local community as well as smallholder. We have seen also learned that there are many also ongoing constraint challenges, such as the investment requires substantial capital investment. So we need more the innovative financing to how to further enhance the investment in the teak plantation and teak management. Also, we have seen some opportunity and some idea how to apply the advanced technique, IT wood. We learned that some of the application can help about certification, particularly QR code that I believe is wonderful. And I think the Mekong project is ready to launch a new book and teak in Mekong for sustainable future will launch in Ghana. Thank you also very much from the Ghana to share also additional information about Tongya. We learned the Tongya.